Warning, this podcast contains spoilers. Hello everyone, welcome to the As Seen on TV podcast for the series finale of Star Wars Rebels.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my god.
Wow. Yeah. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah. I knew this was going to be a wild ride when Hondo made me cry in the first 2 minutes.
That's true. And I like that we're like bringing everybody in, but like you're right, specifically him saying I'd do anything for that boy. I'm like, oh.
I know.
Oh.
I just have to walk out of the room.
Oh my God.
Because like he's sitting with his feet up and he says some bullshit about being a pirate and getting paid, and I'm like, oh Hondo, and then he says something really heartwarming and totally like in a serious manner. I'm just like
I know. And I was like, oh, and Hera came all this way to get their help. So I was like, this is serious. So I was like, oh my goodness, we're gonna have everybody there at the end. So
yeah, because it's everybody that doesn't have to be asked to help Ezra.
Yep.
Because the rebellion will not send help.
No, we already, and that actually, those episodes that we saw, which were earlier, those are really good episodes where, with the bringing in just what's going on around this conflict of like with Mon Mothma and Yavin 4 and all that stuff. They did a really good job, but you could see how they're like, no, they're not going to send reinforcements, so they had to do it all themselves, so, which is kind of sad, but at the same time, this was always Ezra's fight. Like, we first meet him when he's this kid that's like causing problems on the streets, and he like causes problems for Kanan and the rest of them on Lothal, and then so it was only fitting that this is their fight from beginning to end. So
yeah, and you're right, they did a good job of fleshing out this early rebellion, and here at the end, I wasn't even mad at the rebellion, because it's like, yeah, they're spread thin. They can't help. Yeah. This looks like a losing battle to them. Like, mathematically, it's not worth it.
They didn't want to go help Jyn Erso either.
That's true. That's true.
That's our plan. They're like, oh, sorry, this is just no, this isn't going to work out. So I'm not even surprised that they didn't feel like didn't feel like, but they felt like the risk was too great to send reinforcements to Lothal. So yeah.
It was just it was so nice, like, seeing everybody.
Yeah. Well, I think it's nice also that they got everything established in like 0.5 seconds of like the show starting of like, okay, we have a lot to do and we're going to use everybody that we possibly can to do so. So it's Hera and Kallus, and they're going to go find the rest of these guys. They're like, listen, we need some reinforcements. Will you come help us? And they do. They do come.
Yeah, because they're all gathered with Gregor and Wolf on their planet.
Exactly.
So they roll up. It's Hondo, his little pig dude, Gregor, Wolf, and Ketsu.
Yeah.
And they just...
And they said, we need your help. So they come back and help them. Mm-hmm. And we already have what's going on in Lothal with, Sabine's still there, and Zeb, and Ryder, and Ezra, and the wolves. So all that stuff's still going on.
Yeah, they like set that... They set that up to be like, oh, is Ryder betraying them? And I was like, he's not betraying them. And then somewhere in the middle of like the skirmish with Price, I was like, wait, did he betray them?
I know, no, they played it really well, because Ezra makes it like, they kind of don't show you what the plan is, and Ezra's like, okay, he's like, I know how to get them to come here. Tell them where we are. So that you feel like that is part of the plan, but the way that Ryder stands up and plays it, he's like, oh yeah, of course, this was a losing battle. That's why I led you here. But then we found out that was the plan all along. But you weren't sure, because you're not, and I'm not entirely sure that Sabine knew the whole plan, or she was just being a really good actress, because based on her reaction, I was like, wait a minute, did he actually betray them? But he didn't. Yeah. So, but that was the whole point of like getting them to come out there, because they knew there wasn't any other way, and they needed a way in, and they needed the most valuable person to come out, and that's what they got. They got in her pride, of course, Price goes out there thinking, I can take all of the rebels. Yeah, no. So it was a good plan. It was a good plan. It worked.
It did. Yeah. And that, like, my favorite part was, we knew we couldn't trick Thrawn, but we knew we could trick you, you dumb bitch.
Exactly. No, that's exactly what everyone says. We knew Thrawn would fall for this, but you would, because you have no, like, you have no hubris. Like, you're like, so, like, she's got her head so far up her butt that she would never ever realize it. So yeah. They did trick her very, very easily.
It is
and
so funny.
Again, it was all her ego in thinking that she could capture them all without a problem. So that's why she thought, okay.
Yeah.
Because even Thrawn would have been like, all right, I know they're luring me out here and there's something else up their sleeve. So he would have been like, ready? She was like, it's fine. They're just a bunch of stupid rebels. I'll get them.
Yeah. She's messed up so many times. It's really very funny.
Well, she says, like, if I don't bring them back, like, I'm going to be executed by Thrawn. So if I don't bring back Ezra Bridger, I'm done.
Yeah.
So you better find them. Yeah. So she knows her head's on the chopping block.
Mm-hmm.
I think, which plays into her desperation of going out there herself to find them, because I think at that point also none of the troops have been successfully being able to pin them down. So she's thinking, all right, I'll go out there myself to retrieve them. I need to do this or else I'm dead anyway. And yes, like Ezra said, we all knew as her character that she would fall for that, which she did. So.
Mm-hmm. And of course, Rook is still alive.
Yeah.
Because Sabine and Zeb let him go. And he cheats death like 5 times this episode.
I know. I thought, like, when one of the wolves grabbed him, was like throws. I mean, like, first he falls down because, like, Ezra, like, there's a pretty good fight there, and he, like, blindsides with a lightsaber, makes him go flying. Then the wolf picks him up and sends him flying. He's still not gone, which I didn't expect it. I didn't actually expect him to be gone, because I thought, well, this isn't the very last episode, and he's been like a villain or part of it for the last while. But I'm like, my God, does anything stop you? You're just annoying at this point. So,
the wolf scene.
Oh yeah, no.
Wow.
Fast forwarding. Yeah.
No. We're actually right there, because we just talked about riders. They're playing with Ryder, so we're right there. That was really brutal.
Yeah, that was great.
Super brutal.
She was like, Price is like, they chased them into the cave, and she's like, bring me the boy alive, the rest of them get rid of. And he's like, and Ricky says, like, where's your army now, Jedi? And then it's like Ezra, and then the eyes. I was like, I knew they would be right behind him. I was like, oh.
And everybody looked like they were shitting their pants.
Yeah, they're like, oh my God. Price is like freaking out, and like, it's great. It's really great. But we did Hera swoop in and save them right before that or after that? I can't remember. I think it was right before that.
It was right before.
It was right before that, which was also epic, because you're like, yes, and also how they got in there, which like Hondo's like, I've done this. I've only gotten it. Oh no, I've done this plenty of times.
It doesn't matter. I've done this plenty of times. And I've only ever got hit 1, 2, 3. He just keeps counting.
And then he's like, I've done this many times. So like the idea of like, having the ship, and then they just hover there with no power, and then they clamp onto the cruiser that's delivering supplies. Very, very clever and
Sneaks
good way
past.
of getting in there.
Yeah.
And then they come in and they're blasting them to bits, which is great. And then I appreciate. So I watched at least the first episode a second time, where the clones roll up and just go running off of the ship, and like they're just guns blazing, the 4 of them. I was like, oh, that's so cute. It's like back to old times. I liked that too.
Oh, and I loved when the wolves came out, and Gregor just goes to Wolf. He's like, hey, look, the wolf, there's the wolves.
I just like old times.
Oh,
yeah.
That just made me think of like Fives and all the gang. And
I know.
It made me sad.
I know.
Yeah. What happened exactly right after that? I forget.
After that, like, the wolves came out. I mean, No, but like they came out and like all hell broke loose, and
Yeah,
they
and it
pretty
kind
much
of stole the
subdued.
show.
Yeah, they pretty much subdued everybody, and then finally the one has like Zed's like, I would
Oh, they
drop your weapons. Of the few that they didn't toss over the side, and I would lower your weapons, and
they captured Price.
the one
That
has
was the
Price
big
in her
thing.
mouth, and it's like, don't let it eat me. And then they're like, all right, so you're our prisoner now. Great.
And they use her codes. They use her and her codes to get into the dome.
Yeah.
Whatever
So
the
like
ship
it's
base
kind of
was.
they kind of it's like, oh, then is this all we had to do? No. And then the next episode they jump right into it where it's like, okay, we got to storm the Imperial, like the dome in the center of the city that's controlling everything. And it's really funny because I'm like, oh, okay. They like for a second they're like, but she's actually still resisting. I'm like, dude, come on. She's like, I'll never give you the codes. And then they threaten her again with the wolf, and I'm like, come
Yeah.
on, really? I like
Yeah.
no. Like she's like, fine, and then that's how they kind of get their way in there. So but don't they like kind of? I forgot actually. They use her codes to lock the place down once they're in, but they just kind of sneak in, don't they? Or do they go with the
No,
pretense of?
they
No,
use
they
they use her code to land close enough to start walking towards the bay doors.
right, and
'Cause
they are
they-
giving
it-
themselves up as
Yeah.
like as prisoners. That's right.
Yeah.
Like she's giving codes, and Callus is like, listen. I used to be part of the Empire, so if you're faking it,
Yeah.
I'm gonna know.
I'm gonna know.
So yeah, so they all kind of it's like they're surrendering. That's right, and then all hell breaks loose on the landing pad again, and then they get in.
Yeah.
I was trying to remember. I was like, wait, what happened again? Yeah, okay. But they are pretending to be prisoners when they come off of there, and then
Yeah.
they're like,
And I forget just how strong Zeb is.
yeah,
Because he holds open that door for them.
I know. He's like, "Ugh." But also, I was thinking right back to the end of the previous episode too, where like the thing is collapsing, and Ezra just shouts at Sabine, "You grab Zvago," like because she's got her jetpack on. Which, by the way, Sabine, total badass, like just taking people down left and right during that small skirmish with her jetpack. I was like, yes. It's typical of her. She's tossing bombs and like using her blasters as she's flying around. Because they have those like little what do they call them? Just like little cruiser flight hangar. Anyway, but she grabs him and he says, Ezra says, Zeb and I will jump. Because Zeb is strong enough to jump, and Ezra can jump because of using the Force. So I was like, oh shoot. So, but I just thought that was cool. And yeah, him holding the blasters open for them all getting in there. I was like, oh, right. Like, Zeb can just, like, throw something a good distance and also hurl himself a good distance, too.
Yeah.
I forget that from time to time.
Mm-hmm. So they take the dome. Is there another word for the dome? I feel like they called it something else, but now all I can think of is the dome.
Well, they were calling
So
it the dome for, like, that whole last episode. There's more. I don't know. I really don't know.
Because it's a ship as well.
It's like the whole like kind of Imperial like
base.
Base inside of Laval. Like,
yeah,
that's the whole thing. So.
Well, they take it, and then they get a call from Thrawn.
Yeah, they locked it down, or at least that was like looking like.
Oh, and they did
the
evacuation order.
Right, and then everybody's in there, all of the because they're thinking, okay, we'll trap all of them in here and then we'll blast it off. But whoops, Thrawn's like, haha, saw that coming.
Yeah.
Which I didn't realize too, because Ezra had said like we need to get moving because I see a vision of Thrawn like coming to interrupt what we're doing, and he did. He like came in like with 3 cruisers. And he's like hovering above the city, and he's like, "You guys aren't going anywhere." So,
and I think the end kind of gives a little bit more of a clarity to this, but I think his vision was just a bunch of options of how this could have gone. How this entire plan could have gone. Because he's got the plan they're working on, and then he tells Mart, just in case something happens while we're doing this thing,
do this.
Do this. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So there's like a backup plan, which that makes sense too because force visions are not like reliable, as
Yeah.
we know. So it's good to like just you can base certain things off of them, but it's good to have a backup plan.
Yeah.
And I think there's also the ambiguity too because like with the message, the hologram that Ezra gives us is goodbye because he's like, this isn't the path I wanted to take, but this is what I had to do. So,
Yeah.
there was a couple of things that he had thought out in his mind.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, and God, I love this Ezra that we have at the end of this show.
yeah.
So different than baby Ezra from three
I
seasons
know.
ago.
I know. He's come a long way. And
Yeah.
again, it was very, very fitting and satisfying to again see that kid that was like causing trouble and like, when Lethal's first occupied and like that's how he meets them and then to this person who's like, no, this is my home planet and I'm going to save it no matter what no matter what. So, but I was like, oh wow.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was really interesting too because he really like took up he really stepped into the plate in the sense of like letting Kanan go and like feeling like he's fulfilling his destiny. He's like, all right, Kanan fulfilled his destiny. Now it's time to do mine. And I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I love that Ezra knew he had to go face Thrawn, and Hera was like, no, there's another way. And while a lot of times I'm like, yeah, there's always another way, I think Hera's clinging too much to, I need to keep you safe. And Ezra's like, I gotta go, Mom. I'm sorry.
I gotta go do this thing. And then he relies on Sabine to help him kind of like sneak away too. Which I
mean, he said that earlier too. He's like, I count on you. I'm counting on you.
And she's like, okay, I'll whatever I need to do, I'll do it. Mm-hmm. So yeah. I was like, And I was thinking the same thing too. Hera's like, no, you have to stay here. It's
such the mom thing.
I know. I was like, well, also when it played into like her overhearing at the beginning of the episode when he's saying like goodbye to his parents, like he's looking at the picture from him younger, and like she's overhearing that. She's overhearing. He's like, I miss you, and I, sad that I don't have you, but I do have a new family. I'm like, oh,
yeah. So this is very touching.
But it was fitting that Hera was the one overhearing that though too.
Mm-hmm. So. And so Ezra sneaks out while they're planning something else, and he gives himself to Thrawn, and Thrawn brings him to the Emperor.
Mm-hmm.
Do it. But he looks younger. He made himself look like he did in... like he did in Clone Wars. I was going to say like he did in the prequel trilogy, but,
he
same
makes
thing.
Him look more like...
Before he faced Mace Windu.
Yeah, no, he makes himself look a little more, little safer, a little more like, Palpatine did when he was like kind of wooing and manipulating Anakin. So yeah, it's more like the prequels. And I was like, oh, so I thought that was like an interesting choice and deliberate too.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm like, okay, here's another Force wielder you're trying to seduce into making a certain choice.
Yeah.
And then, so I thought that was an interesting thing that they did, but I liked it. And then, so.
Hate to break it to you, Palpatine. This one's more emotionally mature than Anakin was.
I know. He's like, this one had a good Jedi. Well, at least the Jedi Master that might have been paying a little more attention. No offense, Obi-Wan.
No offense to Obi-Wan, but
well, actually, no. I think you're right. I think it really stands with Anakin is that he's just so imbalanced that it was like he was so angsty. It wasn't any fault of anybody other than that.
Yeah, and
there's too many vulnerabilities.
I do love Obi-Wan, but he was. We didn't see him for a long chunk of time. When Anakin was younger and he was training him, but like when we see him with the slightly older Anakin, he was not very patient with him.
Yeah, well, at that point, he's like, "Listen, I have tried to get you to listen to me. You're not listening to me,
Yeah.
so like, whatever." But
So
yeah, it's and that's the thing about those. But the Clone Wars again, they kind of salvage that relationship for me because the whole thing of like, "You're my brother, Anakin," I was like, "Oh God," because the prequels are terrible. But watching the Clone
you
Wars
see
really
that, yeah.
you see that. I was like, okay, now I see this here. So, but when he's younger, there's all that too. But he was again manipulated. Anyway, getting
Yeah,
beyond the
anyway,
points.
this, this one's a little smarter than Anakin. And so he's got part of the recreated, piece of the Jedi Temple.
Mm-hmm.
And which right before this, Ezra is yelling at Thrawn like, you don't deserve.
Yeah.
You don't understand the Force. You don't deserve to have these things you've stolen. You didn't earn any of this.
No.
And then Thrawn just comes back with power. I got it with power. And that's all
Yeah.
that matters.
Yeah.
And
So
Ezra's
it's like, that's
no.
irrelevant. I have these things now. And he's like, even though the Force eludes me, and he's like, that's just it. The Force isn't there to to get what you want or to be used to get what you want. He's like, well, fine. That's irrelevant. I have what I want now, and I've used it against you, and I will take what I want and be on top of all these things, of these civilizations. And that's just like, no, you haven't earned any of this. And yeah. So
it's really funny because I've started to go back and watch like Gundam anime, the Gundam anime.
Okay.
And there's a lot of this like, philosophical debate about war, about what freedom is and all that stuff. And that whole argument, actually, Thrawn's whole character reminds me of that, like the philosophical debates that they have about who's right in war, like what you're supposed to get out of war, like power and stuff. So that just reminds me of that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so are we led to believe that this piece of the Jedi Temple, they brought it back to Coruscant, they rebuilt it, and then they put it on Thrawn's Star Destroyer, and then took it back to Lothal. Like, that's a lot of work.
Yeah, that's a lot of work of that thing that they were excavating, that everything else they like just go, which is just as well. But that is one very powerful Jedi temple then, because of what...
Yeah.
Or, you know what? But that's interesting because, like you said, they rebuilt it. So I don't know if there's something else that the Emperor, as we saw when they were in that time plane thing, it was like him and Ahsoka, and there's that power and that magic, that dark force magic, or whatever it is he was doing to recreate this, to then create a very, very realistic illusion. Or was it really? Was it another piece? Not real. Like, we have to wonder too, because I think the whole idea was like he would been able to manipulate one of those time like holes or portals to make it as if his parents were really there in front of him, and he could just go through that door, and that would be it. And that was the temptation in front of him. It was like, oh my God.
Yeah. Uh-oh. As soon as he was like, come in, like, and he gestures to the door, I'm like, Sith trickery! Like,
I know. I was like, oh, Ezra, please don't fall for this. I didn't think he would, because I was like, I have faith in Ezra in that he really did. He, in the end, after all, like, there were some moments where it, like, I think around season 2 and 3, we were a little bit worried about his training and his anger and what would happen. But by the end of it, I think the turning point, I feel like a little bit was when Kanan lost his sight and he was pulling away from everybody, but he came back and he realized how much more he had to teach Ezra, and they just got closer.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's been really solid ever since then. So I feel like Ezra's always had a very, very close bond and understanding and trust in Kanan and using the Force for the light. So there, as a Jedi, and therefore I really didn't have much fears of him going down there to kind of look at what he was looking at. But that was a very big test, like all, it's always the big test in front of the person. I was like, ooh, this is hard. This is everything he always wanted. This is what was ripped away from him so very, very suddenly and cruelly. So yeah. I was some manipulation there on the Emperor's part,
Yeah, well, and I mean, we know he's a master manipulator. That is his thing.
I know.
That is how he got his power.
That's how we got, Anakin to join the dark side. He's like,
Yeah.
oh, well, the woman you love more than anything else, she's going to die. But guess what? I can tell you how to save her. Lies.
Only with Anakin, he was not quite as subtle as maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
Could have
exactly. Been. So, but yeah, the ultimate test, but Ezra passed with flying colors.
Yeah, so and he destroyed the last bit of the Jedi Temple.
Yeah. I knew he was going to do that. It was really, really good. It was like, Ezra, don't. I was like, first I was like, it's not real. But then I'm like, no, it probably is real because of what we had seen in the previous episode, which was showing us how manipulation of time and those doors and those portals. I was like, wow, that's really, really kind of scary. But cool.
And I'm wondering if it was even that, because it didn't look the same as the portals in the time chamber.
Yeah, no, and all the more reason why I'm like, this is not real. Don't believe it. Don't go through there. Yeah. Don't do it.
what I'm thinking it could have been, and we might not know because obviously Palpatine's plan there had failed. So we might never know.
Yeah, exactly.
But what I'm thinking is that was a Force illusion, similar to Kanan's fight with the Temple Guard version of the Inquisitor.
Right. Yes.
Because it did have that same sort of white light instead of the, darkness of the void that the time room was in. So maybe it was just like a Force vision that Palpatine would then take away and say, oh, you can have this if you show me how to use the time thingy. That's kind of...
I thought the same thing too. He was going to manipulate him to get him to try to do that. Now I thought the same thing. I was like, it's not real. It's some kind of dark illusion. It's a thing. It's not real. Don't do it.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought that is very, very... Yeah, that was, I think, when I watched it the first time, that's what I thought. Thinking about it later, I thought it could have been the portal thing, but that also sounds right, on the money, so.
Either way, Palpatine knew that Ezra can was able to get into the world where you can, manipulate time, and...
So he's going to exploit that.
Yeah.
And try to get him to, wield that power, so.
Mm-hmm. Where was I going with that? Oh yeah, to try to manipulate him to teaching him. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know. I stopped. My brain stopped mid-sentence, and I couldn't remember if I had finished what I was saying. It was a complete sentence, right? Whatever.
It was a complete sentence. It was a complete sentence.
So,
but it really got me though too, and that's where I had I was in a few seconds, and Ezra's like, "I love you, Mom and Dad." I'm like, "Okay, good." He's gonna and then he shuts it, and then he starts to destroy it, and he runs the other way. I was like, "Yes!" I was like, "Run for it!"
And he really looks like his parents.
Yeah, he does. No, they did a great job of it was cool for us as the audience to see them one more time, kind of in the real. I was like, "Oh my gosh, he really looks just like them." So I was like, "Oh." So, yeah.
Yeah, that was nice. So Rook, meanwhile, in the dome, Rook and a lot of stormtroopers shut down the generator for the power of the dome. So they couldn't access the shields, they couldn't really do anything, lift off, none of that stuff could happen. And they go down and they start fighting. Big fight, and Gregor
I know.
gets shot.
Well, I know. Well, he died doing the thing that he was meant to do, and he cares about.
That they chose.
Yeah, exactly. That was sad though, because there's so few of them left, and I was like, no.
Yeah.
So.
But it's it's that thing, they got to choose. They're the ones who got to choose. They got their chips out of their head, and they were not forced to do the thing that they didn't, choose to do. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it was well, and that was the other thing too. When like Thrawn comes in and he threatens them, and he's like, "Oh, you know, you think you're clever? You've just hidden away all of the Imperial troops in the dome, so they're safe. And I'm taking the shields down, so I'm gonna blast on on the city as I hover up here with my three cruisers." I was like, "Oh my god, what are we gonna do?" And so then, therefore, they gotta run down to the power, you know, because he's overriding the power generator, and so Sabine and Hera are like, all right, we need a plan. So like him and Callus and I like it when they're running down there, like Zeb's like, you know, we've been thinking about this plan. It's like all the stormtroopers are locked in here with us, and
Yeah.
so like six of them are following them, and I'm like, oh yeah. So then they have that little skirmish in the generator room, and then yeah, you know, so that's where Gregor goes down. But and again, it was like it was kind of good and bad because there's like I felt like there would be some losses, but like it's you know of the clones, and I felt like that was very fitting because like you said that's what they chose, and they're soldiers to the end.
Yeah.
But with Rex, like I know Rex is gonna live, so I was kind of like I was like thinking about that specifically. I was like, oh my goodness. So, but it's like, is there gonna be anybody else? I was getting worried for Zeb during that. I will not lie. I was getting a little worried for Zeb. I was
Me
like,
too. And okay. You know how much I enjoyed Callus's,
yeah, arc.
character
Yeah.
arc. The like concern and worry in his voice and face when Zeb just like jumps into like a million stormtroopers and he's like, no! Like,
Yeah, I know.
Callus is just so worried about him. And I'm just like,
He's like, no, but he's like, well, this is what you want to do, just go. So yeah, because they're like, what was it? They who came from like the other side? I forgot. There was like, oh yeah, because there was already stormtroopers following them, and then like Rook came with like six more, and they were like higher up, and they're firing on them, and I was like, oh my god, and they're just like in a bad spot because they couldn't. They were like firing on them from up above, and they couldn't like get anywhere, and then finally they did. But I was like, my goodness.
Yeah, man, the battle with Rook was really awesome and just
that was awesome too because Zeb's like, I've had
him.
enough of this. He's like, I've had enough of this. So first he does the thing where he like jumps down, and then he follows him down there, and then they're just like they're fighting with like them being like just with their feet and like the fact that they're really strong, and he's like I'm gonna tie you into this thing and you're gonna get stuck. Bye, I'm out. And then the generator turns back on. And that's the end of it.
So Rook's definitely dead.
Yeah. I was like, oh, finally. I knew that seems kind of dark, and I was like, this is a kid's show, but I was like, oh, finally. Finally. I was like, oh, you got zapped. That's the end of you.
There's a lot of things that happen in this finale that is a little dark for a children's show.
Yeah, well, I meant more like me thinking like, finally, you're dead. Yeah, but like, you know.
But seriously,
so, but yeah,
he needed to go down because he was.
Yeah, he needed to go. I was like, I've had enough of you.
Just beating him was not enough because.
Yeah.
You know, they just kept putting him. They kept like putting him down, and he would just come back. So it's like.
Yeah, exactly.
Had to go down for good.
I liked that it was like, but again, as like he gets, Zeb traps him down there after they fought. He like gets his foot stuck in the wire, and then he climbs out. I was like, oh wait, Zeb! I was like, hurry up and get out! The generator's gonna turn on. And he did. He got out
because he told them to turn it on before he was clear, and I was just like, no.
Yeah, and I think again, Callus is like, no. He's so concerned. He's like, no, don't do it. I was like, it'll be okay. He'll make it out, and he did just barely. And then he's like to Thrawn, yeah, on second thought, don't call him back. I was like,
that was really funny.
Actually, like, where are you, Brooke? He's like, aha, we're expecting that, were ya? Jerk.
No, because I mean, Thrawn had such faith in Rook. Like,
and I mean, he was like, it took them that long to be able to like, get rid of him. So yeah, that was like, he was very good, loyal assassin. Yeah, to him. So, my goodness.
But they get the generator on, and they get
the shields up.
They get the shields up, and they start the sequence for it to fly and explode. That happens first, right?
No, I think the shields come up first because Thrawn's like, all right, I'll fire on the city again, and then
I meant before the space whales.
yes, space
The
whales.
space whales are first, I think.
The space whales come first, but it's like all kind of the same time. It's like all happening at once.
There's so much that happens.
And it happens like boom, 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 boom. It's like really quick, but they come in and they're like, and this was back to like Dart's like this, like if I told, it wouldn't be so much of a, as a who, as a what. And then they come in and they're all like popping in. They're like, sir, we're taking fire. Like, oh, the blockade's down. Like, what could possibly take the blockade down? That's what I'm thinking. Like from outside the planet, and then the space whales materialize. I was like, oh my god,
the Purrgil?
Yes. I was like, oh my goodness, no wonder. And then they start just like, no, they're just going, just like kind of like headbutting stuff, just knocking into it, and
my favorite,
destroying it. So I was like, yes.
Yeah, my favorite thing is the big one locks eyes with Thrawn, and he remembers him, and he goes straight for him, like bypasses all of the troopers and just like grabs Thrawn. It's like, oh, you done pissed him off.
Yeah, exactly. And that skirmish was kind of crazy too. And I think Hera and Sabine are yelling at Ezra like, get out of there, you can get out of there. And he like runs, and like Thrawn shoots him right in the shoulders. Like, damn it! I was like, oh shoot! He like hits him right in the back. I was like,
and even before he gets shot, he's got troopers running at him that he can hardly fend off, and he left his saber with Sabine.
That's right. That was the other big thing, is he tosses it to Chopper. Chopper, has got it, and then Chopper, like when they're like trapped in that room, and like, well, they're not trapped at that point because they've got the generator working, but they're like, I think more troopers are like, all right, it's time to get out of here. And Sabine's like, all right, let's go, and she's using the saber.
Yeah. She knows.
I was like, yes.
She knows how.
I was gonna say she knows how to use it. I thought that was super cool.
Yeah.
I was like, yes. I was like, that's super. I liked that a lot too. She's like, all right, let's go. But yeah, at that point he's gotten rid of it. But like between actually going back to right when Ezra escaped from the Emperor, and like first of all that flickering between that kind of nice, seductive, like kind of good-looking Emperor, and then him as he truly was in the hologram, it flickering back and forth. I was just sitting there staring. I was like, I hate you so much, you people. Son of a bitch. I was like, I know what you are. But then Ezra like just barely gets out of there, and he just like he uses the Force, like he like does pretty powerful blast to get out of there, but he does it again too to like shove the troopers.
Yeah, the rocks. He shoves all the rocks at them.
All the rocks, and he's just like using it, and it was really cool though, because we hadn't seen him get so powerful probably since he had like one of those incidents where he like had huge anger and he summoned that monster. This was like probably the first or second season. It was a long time ago. Mm-hmm. But that just shows the amount of control and how he's evolved to use his power in such a way. So I thought that was super cool too.
Yeah, and Thrawn had the red troopers.
He had right. No, he had the Imperial, like, so it made sense. The Emperor, those look like Imperial guards. They were not.
Yes.
I was looking at them real hard. I was like, those are not Praetorian guards. That's Snoke.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I was making sure it wasn't like the same thing, or Praetorian guards are actually older than we think they are, or whatever.
Well, no, they're definitely they got their inspiration from these guys, from the Royal.
Yeah, they did. They definitely did. Yeah. But I was looking at them, I was like, those are Imperial guards, right? Right? Yeah. I was like, yes, they are. But there were, you're right, in addition to regular stormtroopers, there were a few Death Troopers too, coming at Ezra as well. So
yeah,
like,
there was an assortment of troopers. This time.
Yes.
But yeah, and so the space whale's got its tendrils around Thrawn, but Thrawn keeps breaking out of those tendrils. So Ezra's got his hand holding Thrawn down, and then he's got the other one holding the door closed, and then it's like we left Kanan like that.
I know, he's like holding on. He's like, no, I need to make sure that he stays bound up, and this is what we're gonna do. And that's about when,
and then they jump away.
Hera and Sabine are like begging him, like, no. And he's like, I have to see this through.
I can't let him get away.
I can't let them get away. And then they're like, when they light up, they're about to go to hyperspace, and they just shoot off. But right before that, he's like, the Force will be with you. And I'm like, always. And he says it. I'm like, I'm not crying.
Oh, God.
I knew he would say that too, right before they go. I'm like, oh. So,
Yeah.
and actually, the look on Hera's face is kind of perfect because she looks absolutely stunned. Like, what just happened? What is going on? So, yeah. That was just really good with the animation because she just looks totally like, what? Yeah. What happened?
And
I was like, oh my God.
I liked when the whale showed up and Sabine was like, you could have given us a heads up. And Ez was just like, I wanted to surprise you guys. Also, I didn't actually think that would work.
Yeah, of course. Oh, goodness.
But yeah, we leave off with that. We're not sure if Thrawn is dead or not.
Yeah, no, we have no idea. We don't know what happened. Actually, the way I'm sure people are like kind of interested in how they decided to do that. And I was wondering too, like, how are they going to handle this? And they just kind of do a nice summary, and they flash forward to the end of the war, which I didn't expect that.
Me neither. Let's finish up though, because we still have one more thing that happens. After the ship jumps away. They shoot the dome up.
That's right. Yes, that's when
Price dies with her fucking ship.
Yep, she was like, no, and Ryder gives her one more shot. Like, hey, come with this. This thing's gonna blow anyway. She's like, no, I'll stay with my Empire. I'm like, all right, fine. Go ahead and die with him then. So,
which is really funny because she wasn't prepared to die for the Empire before, but now she is. I guess maybe because she still thinks she can get away with her life.
Or either that, or she felt like this is where I'm meant to be. I am where I was originally, so at least I will die in the place that I was in charge, as it were. So they finally lift the thing up, and as it's going, it's lifting up into the air. And the whole city is watching. Yeah. Then Hera gives Sabine the go ahead, and she blows it, which is her specialty, which I also thought was very poetic too. And then the whole thing blows. I was like, yes, that was great.
And I love, like just the shots of Price before the dome explodes, because she definitely has accepted it. She knows it's gonna explode.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And she's accepted it, and it just reminded me of the bad guy in Pirates of the Caribbean 3 when the cannibal, his ship's just blowing up and he's calmly walking down the stairs. And then
just accepting her fate. I mean, she knew at that point she had finally accepted her fate, and she was like, nope, this is where I will be loyal to the Empire to the end. That was her choice, and so she was.
Yep, and
flash
forwards.
The nice after that, the scenes of the city rejoicing and them cheering on them as they're all in the ghost, and that was good. And then the flash forward so much. I was like,
did not expect
Sabine.
That.
They showed Sabine. I'm like, wait, okay, she looks different. So it's just this is the future. Yeah. Okay, looks older. And then she says Battle of Endor. I was like, oh shoot, we went through the whole war, didn't we? Okay, all right, cool. So they show her heading off to Lothal. They never came back to Lothal. They say that the Empire never came back for another strike or insurrection or occupation.
Well, I mean, at that point, we're jumping right into Rogue One. The Empire's got bigger things to worry about.
At that point, Rogue One is like, at that point, Yavin 4 is established as the rebel base, and from there on out, we kind of, the rest is history as we know it from that version of the Galactic Civil War. So what happens in those? But that is at least about 5 years or so, because it's at least a couple of years, because there's like supposed to be 2 years in between like A New Hope and Empire, and like 1 year in between Empire and Return of the Jedi. So that's like at least 4 or 5 years total.
And you would think it would have to be at least that, because Hera's got a baby boo!
Well, I know!
Hera's got a baby in the co-pilot's chair.
Jason Syndulla, and I was like, well, hold up there. Wait a minute. I was like, I'm pretty sure I know what happened there, but like, when did they have time to it? What's up? I was like, what?
Because, hold on, I know exactly when. Because they kiss when they're, Hera and Kanan kiss when they're on their, like, little mission in Lothal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then they do go back, and it must happen, because then the next day, like, he's meditating in the desert. It has to be, like, then, before she gets kidnapped.
Okay,
it has to be then. There's no other time.
There's no other time. Well, yeah. I mean, they had him. He's right at the right age, where, you know, if you know, he's right at the right age. He's like about 6 or so, maybe 5.
Yeah,
you know,
and
it's
I'm sitting on the couch
anything.
like this. I have a blanket over me. I'm just like, she had his baby.
well, that's the other thing too. Is like, I hate when they like say it, but they don't say it like out loud, because it's like, you know, and Sabine says it's like, you know, like we all know like his father. I was like, so we know exactly who his father is, but like you won't say it though. Thanks.
Of course not. We know it though.
So, but we know it. So, and he is the right age. I was like, what did they? I was still like, well, when did they get a chance? What did I miss? I've been watching real close here. I'm always up for the sexy times. Where did this happen? I want to know. So,
yeah.
But that makes sense. Okay. All right. There we go.
Yeah. And his name is Jason.
Jason, that's so cute.
And there is potential for him to be in the main franchise.
Yeah,
movies.
Absolutely. Well, no, and then ultimately, and they mentioned Hera and Rex continuing to fight and fighting in the Battle of Endor, which is also canon, because we hear about Hera fighting, at least in Rogue One, and we know Rex is actually fighting on the Battle of Endor because they retcon that. But that's cool.
We have a picture of him.
They have a picture of him, and I like that they did it, and so I like that they mentioned it in the show. Yeah. Oh, and then so also, but what ultimately, amongst everything else, you know, it's Sabine, and she does that beautiful portrait of all of them, their family. But it's Ahsoka, so Ahsoka lives officially. Yes. Like, we always kind of knew that because she had to pop back into her portal, and then she goes through the cave, but she did wind up finding them, obviously. Yes. And then the last thing we know is they're going to go off to go find Ezra. I'm like, she's really cool.
Got this staff and this giant white cloak, and I'm like, thank you, Gandalf. What's up?
Yeah, that's what I thought too. I was like, what?
She returns as Gandalf the White. Like, yes.
I was like, oh, okay. I see you, Ahsoka Tano, officially Jedi Master. I got you. Okay, cool. I see it. No, and I thought the same thing. I was like, oh my God. She's just like, you know, came back as Gandalf the White. Okay. It's legit. So we know that she's alive and you know, living out there too. So, and yeah, they're going to go find Ezra, which we presume he's still alive. So I thought, well, I mean, I always thought he was anyway, but I thought that was super cool.
Yeah.
And I think I like that they ended kind of ambiguous like that, like open, like they're going to go off to find him
for another story.
Jedi, you know, the Jedi Master is going to go, or a Jedi is going to go find the other Jedi, along with, you know, even though Sabine is not Force sensitive, she knows like some ways of the Force now and knowing how to wield the lightsaber, so that's pretty cool. So I don't know. I thought that was super. I thought this was very, very interesting. Yes. I was like, I so wish this could play into the larger part of like canon in the movie somehow. I was like, oh God, this would be so cool.
I know.
But we'll never know.
We'll see.
But at the same time, I mean, this is all right around when Endor was like done, and like not too long after that. Again, we don't know a lot, but we know Luke went off and like did all his search of like Jedi artifacts and training and learning all that stuff. So it's around the same time.
Yes.
I'm like, you know, very interesting. I was like, you know, and here's the other thing too that just drives me crazy, even though it's changed around. But I was like, you know, Rian Johnson sat around and like talked to Pablo Hidalgo a lot. So I was like, can you guys like, you know, kind of figure something out maybe? I don't know. So, but I don't know how the filmmakers with Lucasfilm Story Group figure these things out. But still, I was like, ugh.
Yeah. Ooh. And the very last thing is Zeb takes Callus home to see...
Oh! The little sack, that was so cute.
Oh my god, so cute. All I could think of, because he puts his arm around Callus, and I'm just like, Grandma, I'd like you to meet my new boyfriend.
I know that too. It's like got all of them in the doorway, and she's so cute. The little grandma,
she's adorable.
She's so cute. She's like got this little hopeful look on her face. He's like, I was like, oh my god, they want to be such best buds. I love it.
Yeah, me too. I'm so happy.
It was so cute, but I thought the same thing too. I was like, aw, this is my boyfriend. I was like, this is adorable. So cute. Yeah. Wow. Good stuff.
Yeah. I'm happy that, Lothal is free. And it's been free this whole time.
Yeah.
That's a very nice thought.
Yeah, I mean, again, it all came really well done, full circle with, like, what it started out with and the journey each of the characters went on. And, I mean, now I'm just generalizing, but there was just a lot that they did that I felt like they, it was, I don't know, it was just so well-paced and well done and thought out. And I liked that they left the ending open and kind of hopeful and a little ambiguous and mysterious, too. I liked all that. I think it was very cool.
Yeah, it's like ready to go on the next adventure if we get the chance.
Yeah.
And I hope they get the chance.
You can always just think kind of what you want to think might have or would have happened. So,
and if they get the chance to spell it out for us, then they'll do it. But if not, we can dream. Yeah.
Well, and also I think for the deaths that they did have, they made sense. And I was always kind of worried that more people would die, but I feel like the people who they chose to die or disappear, I think that made sense. So, I think that was done well as well.
And I like that they've almost set up a let's go find Luke thing with Ezra here as well.
Oh,
and
I like that too.
I hope they don't find him milking some weird kind of cow person
on
an island.
Planet.
Yeah.
I know, where he's like, I came here to die, leave me alone.
Exactly. I hope it's a a nicer thing.
That leads me to wonder though what happened to Thrawn though too, like what what's going on. I have a feeling that they would, in my mind, they would find Ezra probably also studying the Force, but not like I got to go off and do this thing. To be fair to Luke, he failed horribly, so he felt like he's like, I got to get out of here.
He was punishing himself, yeah.
He was punishing himself. He's like, I totally failed in general at my role, but I failed my sister and my best friend and my nephew, so I got to go off and like hide forever.
Yeah, I have a feeling if, Ezra's off somewhere, he's doing something.
Yeah, he's doing something.
I feel like he'd have a calling to help fix something in some corner of the galaxy.
Yep, I agree.
That's it! It's done! It's over!
It's so weird for it to be done. I'm like, wait, this was like, what? What's going on? Like, and we've been talking about it for so long. It's very strange.
We only got Ahsoka back for like a hot minute and it's over.
I know. I'm happy to say that. Well, now we can officially say that she is alive. She's out there somewhere. I have no idea how long her species lives, but she's out there. So, yeah.
She still looks, she looks pretty good. So,
she looks pretty good.
Pretty sure they live a long time.
Yeah, no, totally. I'm like, hey, again, like I said, if they just mentioned her just like once offhand in the movies, I would just die happy. I'd be like, ha-ha, yes.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see.
But anyway, I think they brought this to a very satisfying and interesting and good conclusion. So now I'm like, oh, what's the next thing going to be? I don't know. I don't know if they're going to do another animated series, if they'll do a live action one. I don't know, but I'm sure they're working on it. But
there's a lot of rumors right now.
Yeah.
I think all they've said for sure is that they are going to do another TV show.
Yes.
That's, I think, the only thing we know absolutely for certain.
Yeah.
Well, until that happens, Sam, where can the people find you?
I'm on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube as Like Leia.
And you can find me on Twitter, Twitch, Pinterest, and my Etsy store at Cleomoto. Please go check that shit out. And you can find all of
Yeah.
us at ASO TV Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Gmail, Google+, right here on Twitch and YouTube. Follow us for some more podcasts from some stuff. We do some stuff. Just go look. It's there. Bye.